Remember family vacations I do? Specifically, this one epic road trip, station wagon snacks everywhere, the works. Now picture this. I have this crazy vivid memory of us pulling over at a roadside fruit stand. You know, the kind straight out of a movie. I can practically taste those sun-warmed peaches still.
Sounds like a perfect summer day.
Right. Except I was telling my sister about it recently, and she completely shot me down.
Yeah.
Swears it never happened. Thinks I'm mixing it up with some TV show or a dream. Now, I trust my sister, but I also trust my memory.
Yeah.
Or do I?
That feeling of, wait, did that really happen is actually a great example of what we're diving into today. We're tackling a fascinating book, Mental Time Travel, which digs into how our brains actually construct our personal memories. And what's fascinating here is it turns out our memories are way more complex than just hitting play on a recording.
So no perfect mental video replays.
Not even close. The book blows that common misconception wide open. Think about it. You probably imagine memory as like photo albums, right? Same photos, same order every time.
Makes sense. Organized and reliable.
Exactly. But this book argues that every time you recall a memory, your brain's actually rebuilding it on the fly. Kind of like running a simulation.
A simulation? That almost sounds like our brains are making things up as they go along.
In a way, yes. The book brilliantly illustrates this by comparing it to how our eyes work. We have a blind spot in each eye, but our brains fill in the missing information so seamlessly we never even notice. Memory's similar. It's always working behind the scenes, smoothing over inconsistencies and filling in gaps without us consciously realizing it.
So it's less like a photo album, more like one of those photo mosaics where it's a bunch of smaller pictures that create the larger image.
That's a great analogy. And what's even cooler is that throughout history, people have used all sorts of metaphors to wrap their heads around memory. We've got the classics, the storehouse, the wax tablet.
Oh, right. Those ring a bell from Philosophy 101.
Right. But the metaphors that really resonate with this book are the ones that highlight the effort involved in remembering memory as a woods, a field, even a labyrinth. It underscores that pulling up a memory isn't always instant or easy. Sometimes it requires some real searching.
And isn't that the experience we're all familiar with? Like when you're trying to remember something specific and it feels like you're rummaging through a mental attic full of dusty boxes?
Exactly. And it's within those boxes, those memories, where the book gets even more interesting because it's not just about remembering facts, right? It's about the personal experiences, the emotions tied to them.
Right. Like it's one thing to know I ate a peach on that road trip, assuming it even happened.
Yeah.
But it's a whole other thing to practically feel the summer heat, taste the sweetness, hear my family in the background.
That's the distinction the book makes between episodic memory, those personal sensory-rich events, and semantic memory, which is more about general knowledge and facts. Episodic memories aren't just lists of what happened. They're intertwined with all those vivid details, emotions, even your unique perspective at the time.
That explains why certain memories are so powerful, even if they're from years ago, right? Like, I know intellectually that my first bike ride was no big deal, but the memory itself, it's crystal clear, full of that wobbly knee joy, like I'm right back there. Other childhood memories, completely gone.
And this is where the book starts to challenge some of our common sense ideas about memory. We tend to think that if a memory is based on a real experience, it must be accurate, a perfect replay.
Right, like why wouldn't it be?
Because our brains are obsessed with coherence. So even if there are gaps in a memory or things are a little fuzzy, our brains are always working to make sense of things. They try to fill in those blanks, sometimes even incorporating things we've learned or heard elsewhere.
Hold on, you're saying our memories can be influenced by what other people tell us?
Yeah.
Even if they're wrong?
That's exactly what we're going to unpack next because it's a crucial point. The book uses the term content generation, which sounds pretty technical.
It does.
But it's actually a really simple idea. It just means that our brains can add or change details in our memories, not just when we first experience something, but also while we're storing that memory and even when we're trying to retrieve it. Every time we access a memory, it's essentially a new construction.
Whoa. Okay, so we've established our memories are far from perfect recordings. They're constantly under construction, potentially being influenced by outside sources. I imagine some listeners might be getting a little freaked out right now. Like, if our memories are this malleable, can we even trust them at all?
That is the million-dollar question, and it's where the book really shines. It dives headfirst into this reliability paradox.
A reliability paradox. Does that mean our brains know they're kind of messy when it comes to memories?
That's the surprising part. It's not like our brains are clueless about their own shortcomings. We have this built-in system called metamemory.
Okay, more technical terms. Break it down for us.
It's actually pretty intuitive when you think about it. Metamemory is basically our brain's way of monitoring its own memory processes. Just like we have ways to check if our eyes are playing tricks on us. Like
Yeah.
if we see something move out of the corner of our eye, but we're not sure, our brains have ways to evaluate how trustworthy a memory feels.
So it's like our brains have a built-in BS detector for memories. I like it.
Exactly. It's always running in the background. Think about a time when a memory just felt off to you. Maybe the details were fuzzy or something felt out of place.
Oh, all the time. Especially childhood memories all have these flashes of images,
Mm.
but it's hard to tell what's real and what my brain's maybe embellished over time.
That's your meta memory kicking in. It's picking up on those inconsistencies and trying to figure out if the memory is reliable. The book breaks down a few ways our brains do this.
Okay, let's hear it. How does our brain try to separate true memories from the false ones?
Well, one factor is vividness. A memory that's rich in detail, cites sounds, smells, and feels emotionally intense is more likely to be deemed trustworthy by our brains.
Which makes sense. Like if I can practically smell grandma's cookies baking in that childhood memory, I'm more likely to believe it's real.
But isn't it a little more complex than that? Doesn't our brain also try to fact check if a memory makes logical sense?
You're absolutely right. Our brains also prioritize logic and consistency. If a memory clashes with established facts or just feels out of character for the people involved, our brains might start waving those red flags.
See, if I suddenly had this super clear memory of winning a hot dog eating contest, my brain would probably be like, nope, not buying it. Nice try. Exactly. Your meta memory would be working overtime on that one. The book emphasizes that these evaluations are happening all the time, whether we're conscious of them or not. It's like having a little detective in our heads constantly scrutinizing our memories for anything suspicious.
Which, honestly, in a world overflowing with information is probably a good thing. We need some kind of filter. But it also brings up a bigger question about why we even have bee memory in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If it's not perfectly reliable, why did humans evolve this complex, sometimes messy system?
That is the million-dollar question. And this is where the book gets really mind-blowing. It digs into the evolutionary advantage of our ability to mentally travel through time. The theory is that our capacity to vividly relive the past is deeply connected to our capacity to imagine the future.
Wait, you're saying that daydreaming about my next vacation is somehow linked to remembering that awkward moment from high school?
In a way, yes. Both involve our brains creating detailed simulations just with different timelines. From an evolutionary perspective, being able to picture future scenarios, to plan, make decisions, avoid danger, was a huge advantage for survival.
So our ancestors weren't just reminiscing about the good old days by the fire. They were using those memories to strategize and prepare for what might come next.
Precisely. And those who were better at mental time travel, those who could learn from past mistakes and anticipate future threats, well, they were more likely to survive and pass on those genes. It's a fascinating example of how our minds have adapted over time.
That's pretty incredible when you think about it. So our flawed, always evolving memories aren't just there for nostalgia. They're a key part of what makes us human and helped us thrive. But there's one more point the book makes that I found really intriguing. It connects mental time travel with something else we do that's pretty amazing: understanding other people's minds.
Right. The book draws this fascinating parallel between how we simulate the past and something called mind reading. That very human ability to step into someone else's shoes and imagine their thoughts and feelings.
It's like with our own past selves. Sometimes we have to work to understand our own past actions or motivations. And isn't that a lot like trying to understand another person? We're constantly trying to access a different perspective, a different way of seeing things.
Exactly, both processes. Understanding our own past selves and understanding other minds require us to reconstruct mental states, motivations, emotions. We're constantly trying to put together a puzzle with incomplete pieces.
So even though we can't literally travel back in time or read minds, our brains are doing something pretty remarkable. They're building these incredibly detailed simulations to make sense of both the past and other people.
And that's exactly the point the book wants to drive home. It's this constructive nature of memory that makes it so fascinating and so essential to who we are. Just like our memories aren't just pulled out of a filing cabinet, our understanding of other people isn't passive either. We're not just observing someone, we're actively using our own experiences and knowledge to try and understand their actions, their words, even their silences.
It's like our brains are constantly saying, okay, based on everything I know about life relationships and how humans work, what's the most likely explanation for why this person is doing what they're doing?
Precisely. And while it might seem like this makes memory inherently unreliable, the book argues that this constructive aspect is actually a strength. It allows us to learn from our experiences, adapt to new situations, and connect with others on a deeper level. It's what makes us adaptable and insightful.
Okay, so instead of being freaked out about our fallible memories, maybe we should be kind of amazed by how they help us navigate this crazy, complex world. But I know some listeners probably thinking, okay, that's all well and good, but how do I know what's actually real anymore?
It's a valid concern. And the book certainly doesn't shy away from the fact that memory is an imperfect process. But here's the key. Understanding how memory works, how it can be influenced, and how our brains try to evaluate its accuracy actually makes us more informed. It allows us to be more discerning about all information, not just our own memories.
So it's not about striving for perfect recall. It's more about being aware of the potential for errors,
Yeah.
for those little glitches in the system, and then developing those critical thinking skills to assess our own memories.
Yes. Think of it this way. You wouldn't believe everything you read on the internet, right? You'd check the source, consider different perspectives, look for evidence. We should be doing the same with our own memories.
Fact-checking our own brains. I love it.
Exactly. Be curious about your memories. Question them. Don't be afraid to challenge your own recollections. Talk to other people who were there. Compare your memories with photos or journals if you have them. It's all part of being a good researcher of your own life.
That's such a great point to end on. So if this deep dive has left you questioning everything you thought you knew about memory, don't panic. It just means your brain is doing exactly what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Actively constructing and reconstructing its understanding of the world.
And engaging in that process, that journey of questioning and exploring, is how we learn and grow.
Couldn't agree more. And who knows, maybe it'll even make those hazy memories a little clearer, a little richer,
Yeah.
a little more interesting.